like to call to order the Township of Concord Council meeting for August 6, 2019. We would all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Barbara, you are recording the meeting. You use that to help you assist in the minutes. If anyone has any cell phones or any electronic devices, if you can tone them down or shut them off, that would help, please. First item on the agenda is the approval of the public meeting minutes. We're going to do each of these individually. Do we have a motion to approve the June 4th regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is the June 25th agenda meeting minutes. John Crossan, I think you had, let's take a motion in a second and then we'll do the discussion. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, John? I think you had a comment you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, and I
Hold it, I got it right here.
thank you. Yes, so I just
Need that paper back.
regarding the notes on Astoria project, I just wanted to clarify that I suggested reducing the number of hours allowed for a stay from 72 to 48, and that we also discussed that the conditional use would be a sub-use in order to align the number of overnight stays with the number of beds in any facility under the ordinance.
Okay, so I guess the motion would have to be to approve the minutes as amended by Mr. Crossan. Do we have a motion to do so? So moved. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is the July 2nd regular meeting minutes. John, did you have any comments on that?
Yeah,
Let's do it that way. We'll do the comments first.
Just one comment on the first page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. It references the new Concord Republicans, and it's just inverted. It should say Concord New Republicans.
Okay. A motion to approve the July 2nd regular meeting minutes with the correction made by Mr. Crossan. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And lastly, the July 30th agenda meeting minutes. John, do you have something
Yeah, I
on
just
that one?
had two quick notes on that. So on page 2, under review August 6th public meeting agenda, on the first line there, just strike July 30th. It was referencing the minutes from that meeting, but these are the minutes from that meeting, so you just can strike that. And then at the bottom of page 3, the very last line on the page, change the wording to say, D. Pileggi raised the possibility of changing the members from 9 to 7.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the July 30th meeting
moved.
minutes as amended by Mr. Crossan? Do we have a motion to do so?
Oh, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second
All
motion.
in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is the total expenditures for the month of $1,393,362.36, which is made up of a July payroll of $194,481.72, current township bills totaling $1,088,580.67, and current sewer bills totaling $110,299.97. These are a little higher than normal because the money to purchase the hall piece was included in these checks, which was a little shy of $900,000. We have a motion to approve those expenditures. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying
Aye.
Under recognition, Marge, I think you're going to handle resolution number 38 of 2019. Is your microphone on?
Resolution of the Concord Township Council congratulating Andrew C. Murray on his outstanding achievement in attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Whereas Andrew C. Murray is the recipient of the highest scouting award, Eagle Scout. In honor of this achievement, a court of honor will be held August 17, 2019, at 11 a.m. at the Elam United Methodist Church, 1073 Smithbridge Road in Glen Mills. Whereas the Boy Scouts of America is a vital force in the development of our youth through its many programs which encourage the ability of its members to do things for themselves and especially for others. One of the major objectives in the Scouting program is to develop citizenship through community involvement. And in addition to working for citizenship merit badges, Scouts are encouraged to participate in community service projects. Whereas for his community service project, Andrew designed an outdoor classroom suitable for 27 students adjacent to Garden Valley and at Concord Elementary School, to be used by teachers to enjoy the outdoors while still learning in a structured environment. Andrew designed the project, he acquired all of the materials, and he directed a team of 15 youth and 12 adult volunteers to build the classroom. And whereas Andrew C. Murray of Troop 260 has proven himself to be an outstanding member of the Boy Scouts of America, having served as quartermaster, patrol leader, assistant senior patrol leader, and instructor, the Eagle Scout Award is a distinction that will follow him throughout life. Therefore, be it resolved that the Concord Township Council congratulates Andrew on being the recipient of the highest scouting award, Eagle Scout, and encourages him to continue his commitment to excellence.
Okay. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping here. That's in the form of a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Andrew, congratulations. We have one more recognition to do, and then we're going to ask you to come up and present it, and we'll take a picture. Mr. Crossan, you have a presentation regarding the Mural Art Contest winner.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. President. As many of you may recall, earlier this summer, we announced that we were having a mural contest for painting the side of the Comfort Station in our Smithbridge Road Park. And we had several fantastic nominees or nominations, and we made a selection, and the winner is Haley Meyer. And this is her design up here, and this will be painted on the side of the Comfort Station in Smithbridge Park in time for an unveiling at Community Day in September. And along with each submission, the applicants were requested to submit a statement of intent. And so I'll go ahead and read Haley's statement here. She says, "My name is Haley Meyer, and I'm 13 years old. I've lived in Concord Township my entire life, and I love to call it home. For my mural, I chose all the things that I love or have meaning in Concord Township. I chose BYC because it's a big part of our sports lives. The houses represent our community, and the landscape is in the Concord Township Land Preservation logo. The next one is the image of our township. The heart represents friendship and love. The three people represent family, and the GV represents our school district. And finally, in 1683 is the year that our township was founded. Everything is contained within the Newland grist mill. I am proud to call Concord Township home." And Haley, Concord Township Council would like to congratulate Mrs. Haley Meyer on winning the township's first ever mural art contest. Miss Meyer's interpretation of our contest theme, Concord Proud, is remarkable, and council is proud to have her artwork painted on a wall at Smithbridge Park. Haley is 13 years old and has lived in Concord Township since birth. Concord Township Council recognizes and congratulates Haley for her artistic community to our township.
All right, excuse me. That is in the form of a motion, Mr. Crossan?
Yes, Mr.
Do we have a
President.
second?
Second motion.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, Andrew, if we could see you down front, present you with your award, and maybe get a picture, please. Okay, monthly activity reports. Do not see anyone here from the Pennsylvania State Police. Store Department, Mr. Gillespie.
She has it.
I have the monthly activity report for July. Both the main plant and Riviera plant continue to meet discharge requirements within the parameters of the NPDES permits. And the township has received many completed surveys back from the Penns Grant neighborhoods. Township has received 66 in favor and 28 not in favor. This response totals represents 70% of the homes in the service area. The Township Sewer Committee discussed these results and is recommending that the township move forward with the low-pressure sewer project due to the favorable response results and the need for sewers in this area. Finally, the operations staff performed 10 lateral inspections as required for resale certification.
Okay, thank you, John. Code Enforcement, Manos.
Fellow residents. In July, our department issued 38 building permits, 13 plumbing permits, 37 mechanical permits, 33 electrical permits, 3 fire code permits, and 4 standalone zoning permits, 128 in total. We've issued 19 residential resale certificates, no commercial, 14 signed permits, and we've also issued 37 certificates of occupancy for new commercial occupancy. That's what I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Planning Commission, Mr. Juleson.
Mr. President, members of council, the report activities for July for the Planning Commission. Extension was signed for the November 20th for 400 Smithbridge Road, LLC, final subdivision. Sarita Trevetti, project manager, read the Planning Commission's review of Chick-fil-A conditional use application proposing renovation to a portion of the building, reconfiguration of the drive-through to accommodate a second drive-through lane, meal order and delivery canopies, and other site improvements. Recommendations have been forwarded to council. Members of the Planning Commission conducted interviews for 2 candidates, Thomas Cassidy during July 8th, 2019 agenda meeting, and Ben Little after the public meeting on July 15th. Both candidates presented themselves well, asked viable questions, and had candidate information, had read the candidate information packet, and had previous municipal government experience, engineering and architectural education. 2 other candidates, Jay Clement and Daniel Sanford, are scheduled for interviews during the Planning Commission meeting of August the 12th. There was an initial discussion concerning Planning Commission staffing levels and future and structure, and future discussions will occur. Scheduled for the coming month, August 12th, public meeting, August 19th, public meeting, correction. Agenda meeting is August the 12th, public meeting is August 19th, and the caucus meeting is August 27th. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Solicitor, Mr. Donahue.
First, I would ask that the township manager schedule for sometime in either October or November the public hearing pursuant to the court order in the Polti Spring Lake project or application. I know that this board has many hearings scheduled for August, September through October, but we need to do that as previously discussed within 90 days of the order. Secondly, for the board's future review, I'm going to hand out a copy of a plastic bag and plastic straw ordinance and regulations pertaining to the use of plastic bags and plastic straws in Concord Township. Mr. Gillespie, Councilman Gillespie, has asked that I propose such an ordinance for your consideration, and I will pass that down. Thirdly, please be advised that the meeting that was scheduled for tomorrow night before this board conditional use application, and quite frankly, I forget the name, Amanda, of the applicant, Gorilla, has been continued, and that hearing will be conducted sometime within the next 90 days. The continuance is at the applicant's request. And that's all I have, sir.
Okay, Township Engineer Nate Klein.
Before you move on to that, Mr. Donahue, could you elaborate for the public's benefit the point that you made about Polti and what we discussed last week?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Could you elaborate on the judge's decision and what we've decided moved last week?
And you're talking about Judge Proud's decision? I mean, excuse Judge Whalen's decision?
regard to
Judge Whalen's
Polti.
decision on Pulte.
Yeah. As previously discussed, I read the decision, and he has remanded the matter back for this board to have a hearing concerning what public health, safety, or welfare issues are posed by this particular project. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Township Engineer Nate Klein.
The only non-agenda item, the Township Road Program is ongoing. We're about halfway complete, probably about a week to 2 weeks remaining. We will be sending out notice in the next couple of days. We're doing some work on State Farm Drive in front of Chick-fil-A. That will be a little bit complicated and could be some delays there. But otherwise, we should be wrapped up that project in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Thank you. Township Manager Amanda.
I don't have much to report. I just wanted to make sure and encourage everyone to come out to our first summer concert series this Thursday at 7:00 p.m. We will have a food truck. We have an ice cream truck. We'll have popcorn and candy at the snack shack, and we encourage everyone to come, bring your chairs, and listen to some great music. We're really excited about it. Our first one, unfortunately, got rained out, so this is sort of our big push, and I know Park and Rec Board is working really hard to make sure that becomes a great event, and we're hoping to have that in the future. So I really encourage everyone to come out. It'll be great.
Thank you. Public comment, public forum, any questions? Sir, come on up. We'll need your name and address, and please use the microphone.
I think you know my name, but it's Jim Tucker, 86 Mendenhall Drive. I have a couple things. The first is, I'm sure you're aware that PICO was on Mendenhall Drive, replacing all the poles on the Mendenhall Drive. They did that in the beginning of May. In the process, they cut the old poles in half. That half pole is still sticking in the ground next to everyone. I don't know what influence you might have with Verizon to get them out of there, but
Nate,
very good.
add that to your list. Okay, got it.
The second thing is more related to my property, something I complained about when the Concord Toll Brothers development was going in behind me. There was a lot of water runoff that has been exacerbated by sewer going in my neighborhood. I have a lot of erosion on my lawn. And of course, we had a lot of rain. The water table has raised, and now you just put new asphalt on Mendenhall Drive. The water is actually seeping up through the asphalt.
Okay, Nate, got that one too. We have your contact information. Nate, if you have to meet Mr. Tucker out there, he could probably show you a little more firsthand about the water problem. Yeah.
86.
Okay.
Right, the main flow of the water, it comes across the whole back of my property. The main flow is right where the sewer easement is. It's eroding the ground. Eventually going to erode it right down to the sewer pipes.
Okay, we'll send Nate out there to take a look at it. No problem.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up. Name and address.
6 Macomb Avenue. I have property there. We have demolition across the street on Macomb Avenue. We are right in between the two. I was questioning what was happening over there. I have some rental property there. I have tenants that live there, and the construction vehicles that they had done demolition has torn up the road horribly. We tried to maintain our road as much as possible, what we do own, which is only half of it, and then people who own the other side, of course, own the half.
Right, that's a
And we are right
private, that's a
next-
private street there, yes.
We are maintaining our
Yeah.
road as
Okay.
best as we can, especially with the heavy equipment coming through. We filled in all the holes that we could fill in that they had done.
Mhm.
My problem is I wanted to know what was actually happening, what is getting
The
done there.
property owner, Mr. Virali, who owns the shopping center north of that,
Right.
purchased that property. And my understanding is, first of all, there are no plans in the township for any development on that site. He elected to take the buildings down, just to have the vacant lot. I think two reasons. Number one, it shows better with no buildings on it. Number two, it also affects his tax assessment for next year. But there is no formal proposal or even an informal proposal for the township right now for any development on that site.
Well, I'll explain to you what he did. I was speaking to him when the demolition was happening. He came to me and asked me if I would pay for the road to be paved. My answer to that is, I will pay for what I own
Mhm.
to fix, but I can't fix anything as long as we have demolition going on, and
Right.
heavy
It's
equipment.
not the time till that project's done, I agree.
Right, and he said, oh, well, I'll go see Richardson and have him help pay for this. But I felt that he should cover the cost of the maintenance of his share of the road. He left
I think,
awful holes. Awful holes.
I would have to defer to our solicitor, but since it's a private road, I think it would be incumbent on those that have ownership interest in the road to make that arrangement themselves.
Well, I'm more than happy to.
Yeah, but I don't know how we can facilitate that. I mean, it's not our road.
Right, I understand
Okay.
that, and I will fix my half.
That's fine.
But-
That's, to me,
But
it's
I'm just
perfectly
thinking,
reasonable.
the township, you're going to find holes like a foot deep, and you have people coming across there all the time to cut through because of the red light at Smith Bridge Road.
Right.
And, I mean, it just happens. But
No.
we maintain it as best we can. But I was wondering what was going to happen as far as he is concerned on his half. Would you require him to fix
Nate, I don't know. Yui, it's a private road. I don't think we can have anyone make repairs to a private road. Do we have power to do that?
Well, I guess there's a couple issues. I mean, and again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the township, because the township would not be a party to this particular action. But if in fact the demolition of the building caused further damage to the road, then he may be responsible to repair that. It seems to me if there's a number of people sharing that road, if sometime in the future it needs to be repaved, then you'd each have to pay your apportionate share.
Well, I will pay for mine, and I'll have
Right.
it done, because I'll do my driveway and have the
Sure.
thing done.
Sure.
But,
But if in fact the road has been damaged by him
oh,
or
it
by his equipment,
has.
well, you may want to, take pictures of that so you have it for the future and maybe address that with him. He should at least patch and repair what has been ruined or which has been affected by his demolition. You're welcome.
Hi, my name's John Caramonico. I live at 126 St. John's Drive, Glen Mills. And question, I guess, is for you regarding the Polti home development there on 202. That is, what are you doing to keep that from happening? Was it my understanding that the reason why they're pushing a hearing in, say, October, November?
Right. The court sent an order down that another hearing has to be conducted in October or November. That's correct.
Did we lose any ground to Judge Whalen with his decision at that point? Because these Polti homes are 254. That would create quite a burden on our school district and a great place for open space, I think. And not to mention the traffic that it would create. And is there some ordinance that needs to be amended, corrected to make this work in front of Judge Whalen or whoever is going to be?
Well, Judge Whalen has already made a decision on the wording of the ordinance, okay? he believes that the word proposed, as set forth in his opinion, indicates that the developer may be able to proceed as he has envisioned. We do not disagree with that, and it's our intention to appeal that decision. But in the meantime, the judge has said, I want to have the township conduct another hearing with respect to how this may or may not adversely affect the community. So, and that's why I brought it up this evening. One, we got to schedule a hearing. And yes, the township is going to have to prepare to present evidence in that respect.
Do you have that preparation of that evidence? I just want to make sure we can do whatever we can to win this thing, because it would be, I feel, catastrophic to have that much more of a load on our school district, as well as the traffic, as well as wouldn't it be nice?
Absolutely, and I'd be happy to work with you in that regard. So I think let's get the hearing, let's get a date established. My guess it's going to be the end of October or sometime in November, and then we'll proceed accordingly. But I'd be more than happy to talk to you and talk strategy or share ideas.
Well, it came to my attention that there was an ordinance that was put in place, I believe by you, I don't know when, maybe 2013 or whatever. It should have been rescinded prior to this Polti Development.
That's absolutely wrong. There was an ordinance put in place to allow for townhomes along a major arterial road with
Route 1.
red light, and it was used on Baltimore Pike across from Joseph Anthony's for that townhouse development.
That's behind the Wawa there?
Or not behind the Wawa.
Lydia Hollow Road? No?
No, that's not Lydia Hollow Road. Little townhouse development across from Joseph Anthony's at the entrance to the Fox Valley community between Doherty Boulevard, and I forget what the name of the new street is. And it's the red light that went in. It services the Windsor development in the back. It gave Fox Valley community access to a signalized intersection, as well as I think there's 48 townhomes that were constructed there.
So
that's where the ordinance was put into effect. What the Polti Development did is they took that ordinance and they're proposing it on Baltimore, on 202. However, the development that was built on Baltimore Pike, 3 of the 4 roads already existed. One was dedicated, one was not, and one was Baltimore Pike. That was the difference. So as you said, we denied it because we did not think that the way the roads were proposed met the intent of the ordinance. They appealed it. The judge had a different opinion, and now we're going to have another hearing on it.
just as long as we win.
Well, we thought we were going to win the first time.
And taking that
You're welcome.
question.
Okay.
Whatever
And I'd
we
be
could-
happy to
anything
discuss
else?
it with you and share ideas and come up with a strategy.
Whatever we could do. I mean,
Okay.
that's your ballywhack. Of course, I would defer to that. You. The other question I have is one that Josh Porsky brought up at the meeting last week. It was about the stop signs in Concord
We're going to
Township.
get to that later on in the agenda.
Okay. And may I ask a question?
Well, if you want to ask it now, we're going to approve a resolution. What are we doing? We're going to have a hearing on that. We're going to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance amendment to the traffic and vehicle code. You want to get into that now? What exactly we're doing with that for the traffic signals?
It's going to be
I
a
mean, for the
blanket.
traffic signs?
It's going to be a blanket ordinance with respect to the stop signs in the township.
Blanket ordinance, but there's going to be some there that are warranted and some that aren't.
No.
That doesn't
No,
make it right.
No. You're getting some bad information. Signs can't go up unless they meet a warrant. And they have the sign, as far as since you've been here, every stop sign that's put in has had to meet a warrant. Is that correct?
Yeah, any stop sign we've been involved with, we've made a formal recommendation. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of signs that were installed in the 1920s or 30s or 40s that might not have any sort of paperwork with it, but we've absorbed those as the township has existed. So this ordinance what we're doing is essentially locating almost literally every stop sign in the township that the township is responsible for, update the ordinance so it lists all those properly, and clarify that list of what stop signs are. And as we go forward, if there's new stop signs, we would then add to that list.
Because my concern is that stop signs shouldn't be used as speed restrictions?
Our engineer is totally aware of what stop signs are used for, and if they meet the warrants, we do put them in.
And that some stop signs, if they're not put in, in a correct spot, if they weren't warranted,
That's right.
that possibly it could be used against the township should there be an accident there, because people, when a stop sign is maybe a little more, I don't want to use the word redundant, but where it's not really necessary, people tend to speed up.
Why don't we cut to the chase? The stop sign at Morris and Temple is.
That's one.
It is warranted, and it was installed based on the design criteria.
So it met the design
Yes, it did.
criteria.
Yes, it did.
And it's one, and that's what you're going to include in
Yes.
blanket ordinances. I'm just concerned about getting sued by someone that have a problem. That's what it says.
We can, unfortunately, in today's litigious world, we can be sued by anybody at any time. We're doing our best to prevent that from happening. I feel confident that the enactment of this ordinance will solve those problems.
I hope so, because the people of the township wouldn't be the ones that would benefit. The only people that would benefit from a lawsuit, unfortunately, people in the legal system.
Well, so I don't think there's any grounds for a lawsuit. I mean, you can offer that opinion, but I don't agree with that.
Well, I could read something right from PennDOT. Improper signing and ignoring the warrants create dangerous conditions for both drivers and the responsible municipality. In addition, unwarranted and substandard traffic control devices that contribute to a crash can sometimes be grounds to award judgment against an agency involved in a legal dispute. That's PennDOT.
If I may comment.
That may be PennDOT, but there has to be grounds for a suit. So, I mean, I'm not going to get into a legal debate with you, but
I just want to protect us as
That's what we're
protected.
doing.
Community,
That's what
and
we're doing. That's what we've always tried to do.
That's all. Thank you.
What we've always tried to do.
Thank you,
All right,
sir.
thank you. Anyone else? Come on up, please. Address.
Good evening. My name is Shweta Arya, and I'm a resident of Garner Valley. I live in 9 Forwood Drive, Garner Valley. I was here earlier in the year to talk about how we need to take some actions for taking care of our environment. And I was here in March with Sierra Club to make a presentation on how we can transition towards 100% renewable energy. I'm just here to check on what is the status on that. I know I was told by Amanda, we exchanged some emails, I was told by Amanda that the council is looking into creating an environmental advisory committee. So I'm just here to see what is the status on that.
You and I have been back and forth, Shweta, on multiple occasions. I think that council, when they sat with you, there's some planning that's happening on our end to make sure that those efforts aren't, we just adopt a resolution and then nobody stewards it,
Yeah,
which I think is what my emails to you were. It's our hope that we can possibly, council has been discussing possibly the creating an environmental advisory council. And those communities that you noted to me who have adopted those resolutions actually have those councils who steward that work. So I think what I was trying to say to you is we're hanging, I just needed you to hang tight, because it's not that we're ignoring you, it's that I have to get the right mechanisms in place here, and council does, in order to make those things a reality versus me just giving you lip service and saying, yes, we agree to the resolution, but
I'm all for it. I'm just here to know what timeline are we looking at. And that's not the only thing I'm up for. We can take care of our environment so many different ways. We can increase our green cover or start township-wide composting. I'm a naturalist by profession, and I would love to be part of it. I'm just trying to see what is the timeline on that and, what can we look forward to.
Sure, and I'll defer to council on some of the timeline sides of it. There's been a lot of things on the agenda since I've walked in the door, unfortunately. And some of that mechanism is on me, and some of that is the prioritization that I'm being given for other things happening. It's definitely not forgotten. There's been lots of conversations actually about solar. You just heard a plastic bag ban discussion. There's a lot of...
Can you, that reminds me, we were not very clear about what is the plastic bag ban. Are we Are we considering that?
I'll let Mr. Gillespie has asked that we at least draft a proposed ordinance, which we have done, and he's going to discuss that later on in the meeting, what it's all about. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.
We are having, one other thing, we are having Pannoni. One, you mentioned the solar. Our township engineer, Nate, you're doing a study we have been talking about for years, and I think he's actually running the numbers about converting trying to utilize solar power at the sewer plant. Spend between probably $18,000 and $20,000 a month in PICO bills running that sewer plant. Yeah. Yeah, that was the big thing. Yes, ma'am. Your name?
Louise Tarbutton, 77 Bittersweet Drive, Fox Valley. I see you're working on some roads in Fox Valley. Bittersweet Drive is in terrible shape up at the top of the hill on the cul-de-sac. Is it on the schedule?
I'm looking at my list. I don't see it, but I will take a look. And if it is not something that's taken care of this year, if it's appropriate, we can add it to take a look at adding it to next year. Thanks for the heads up.
Okay. Anyone else?
Annette Popek, 710 Featherbed Lane. So my question was, if I want a stop sign somewhere and I feel we need it, what are the steps to get that? Who do I go to?
Well, we can sort of, Nate and I, we kind of both.
Who do I call in the
So
township?
basically what happens, you can shoot an email as of right now.
To who?
As of right now, today, without the ordinance being advertised, which will change the process. But right now, if I get a safety complaint from resident or residents regarding any intersection or any area like that, we get questions all the time for signs on different things. Stop signs in particular, go directly to the engineer, and the engineers perform a study to determine whether or not it meets any warrants.
Okay. So can I ask, Temple and Morris Road, that is the dumbest stop sign, okay? We're talking about thousands of people that drive through there a day on Temple Road, correct? Who did the study? So you have how many residents coming out of that area?
Yeah, and I don't have the study with me tonight, but the reason that stop sign was, engineering, there's requirements with PennDOT that we call warrants. And for that specific location, we had received complaints. Took a look at it. We had looked at it historically, and it did not meet warrants. So I was hesitant. I said, I'm not sure if we should look at it. The traffic's gotten worse. A lot of speeding complaints on Temple. I know the area very well. I said, if you want us to take a second look, we'll take a second look. It happens all the time. Took a second look. Traffic has increased. The speeding has increased. What happens is there's not sufficient sight distance because of the speed of the cars. The cars are going faster. So when you're coming out of Morris, making lefts or rights, there's just not enough, for PennDOT's regulations, it does not meet that. It's a very black and white decision for me. It's if it does not meet the sight distance because of the radius of that curve coming down the hill, but there's an equation and there's math involved. If it doesn't meet it, our recommendation is that is not safe per PennDOT's guidelines. We recommend a stop sign be installed. It's pretty cut and dry.
Okay, what about speed bumps?
What's that?
Speed bumps.
Speed humps. Speed humps, there's two things on speed humps. We can have a discussion on those anytime. One is we have an ordinance for speed humps that has specific requirements, including 90% of the residents to access the road have to support it. Second is Temple Road probably is at the high end of traffic for where we would suggest speed humps. It's just probably a little too high traffic-wise for a speed hump situation. We did have speed humps there historically that we actually removed when we did some other traffic calming work. Yeah, so we had speed humps there. Traffic was increasing. We had complaints. We actually did a bunch of curb bump outs, landscaping, and tried to tighten up those intersections, put a traffic light in. We've spent a lot of time and money in those areas. So, all of these decisions over the years, we've done a lot of different things over there.
Yeah, because there was this bump out you guys did.
Yep.
Made no sense.
Well, so
I don't
again,
know what that was.
what that does is it makes the road narrower and visually and physically makes traffic slow down.
Okay, so I know you put that stop sign down because you say you justified that, but couldn't the people that live in that development drive around to the other stop sign? Because there's another stop sign like within 100 yards.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I mean, if you're suggesting closing the road, that's a whole different discussion. And then,
I'm sorry,
are you
what?
suggesting we close the road there, or?
No, no, no. What I'm saying is, you already had a stop sign at the one, right? Why couldn't the residents, so it's inconveniencing a few people, go
It's
around
not
to the other one?
I think you're mixing inconvenience with safety. At the end of the day, we have an intersection of two township roads that does not meet the minimum requirements for sight distance.
Okay,
Thus,
it
a
just
stop
didn't
sign
make
is required.
sense. Yeah.
Well, they're not always going to make sense to everybody. Again, it's not.
It's the small amount of people that are coming out of that stop sign.
Those small amount of
mean,
people, I don't want to get T-boned at that intersection because it's unsafe.
My daughter's gotten T-boned, and she's gotten hit,
Mm-hmm.
car totaled at Featherbed and Kirk. So what are we doing for that?
If you have a suggestion or a
doing?
complaint, you could email the township manager and we could take a
Well,
look
no,
at that.
I'm asking you guys, what are we going to do about this? What do we do?
First complaint we've
residents.
received about that. If there's a
Featherbed
specific
and-
situation, we'll take a look at
You've
it.
seen a lot of accidents there, right?
Where's that?
Featherbed and Kirk.
Featherbed and Kirk.
Have to do a study to see, we would have to do a report from the state police to check on how many accidents have been there.
But what do you do about it? People are blowing through it. What? No, you can't do a red light, but I'm just saying, it's just, it's a big, this is a problem all over.
Okay.
People blowing through.
And look, for what it's worth, if I may just, I know we're kind of done this topic, but I represent multiple communities and I don't live in this community. I live in another community. It is the same problem in every one of these communities. Concord is no different than the municipalities I represent in Delaware County and Chester County. All have the same problem, all the same issues. And it's
So what are people saying?
people, we have the same problems everywhere. There's not a lot of answers to these problems. And
Okay. All right.
it's not unique to Concord Township.
Okay.
Good. And this straw thing is a great idea. Whose idea was?
John's.
Yeah. Yeah, we need that.
Thank
Get
you.
rid of plastic bags, right?
Yep, got it. You should find her the microphone, that'd be good.
I'm sorry.
I think the traffic sign, stop sign is fine. There's a lot more traffic. What?
Robert, Maureen Hewitt, you probably have her address there. Brooklyn.
Right, that fast, is she? I think that stop sign is fine. There's a lot more traffic coming
Right.
off
Have a
of
question.
322, trying to avoid all the nonsense on 322. And you can definitely get me to move out of the township if you start using speed bumps. Seriously.
No comment. No.
What happens now for the Penn's Grant folks and the sewer? What's the next step?
We're gonna do that when we get under new business, and we'll explain to you what happened.
Okay, cool. And just so that I'm certain, Polti, John Jarris went to the Court of Common Pleas and
Correct.
said, they said, I can't do it, I say I can do it.
Correct.
And the Court of Common Pleas sent them back here.
Right. The Court of Common Pleas, Judge Whalen interpreted the ordinance and suggested that Mr. Jaros's interpretation was correct as opposed to the township's interpretation, which we disagree with and we intend to appeal. In the meantime, the judge said, however, I want to hear more evidence as to what effect this proposed development may have on the health, safety, and welfare of the township. So we sent it back so we can have a hearing in that regard. And
So is that a special hearing that is do they just come right back here?
yes, it's going to come back here, and when Amanda has this scheduled sometime in October or November, public notice will go out, the parties will come in, we'll have a court reporter, township will present evidence, Mr. Jaros will present evidence, and there'll be a decision.
Public
Well,
comment?
I
you
would
can
like
ask
to help
questions.
you on that too, because the 3 roads they're talking about is where they put those terribly unattractive other townhouses,
Okay.
which is the same townhouse he wants to put on 202, just more of them. I would definitely
Okay.
be willing to help you.
Maureen, once I get the date, I'm going to write you, and you can give me your comments.
Cool beans.
Thank you.
Chris, did you have something? Tried to. Oh. All right. Moving right along under new business. Item number 1 is to authorize for the Act 537 Plan Revision Plan for Penn's Grant 1 and 2 sewer projects. Amanda, this would be the one that gets sent up to DEP?
So here's how this process works. You guys authorize that to move forward. Walt has already been putting together the application materials and the advertisement. This application for Act 537 plan revision has to go to our local planning commission and the Delaware County Planning Commission for their comments, and we have a 30-day public comment period that has to transpire. Then this will be back in front of council as a resolution, like we have tonight on here for the Marlboro. Very similar. You'll have a resolution, and then it goes off to DEP for comments, and then we get their comments back, address anything necessary for addressing, and then hopefully they give us the okay, sign off, and then we're ready to rock.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the authorization for the Act 537 plan revision as explained by Amanda. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Questions or discussions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is resolution number 39 of 2019, resolution of supervisors of Concord Township. Amanda, this is that small stream discharge system at 19 Marlboro Lane, correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's in the Cambridge Down neighborhood.
Per DEP, it has to have a resolution passed by us to allow this to proceed. So do I have a motion to approve resolution 39 of 2019? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is authorization for the township engineer to proceed with the do not block the box striping and signage proposal 202 in Johnson Farm Lane. Nate, can you give us a real quick Cliff Notes version of this?
Yeah, this is actually similar to what we were discussing earlier. The township had received complaints from residents in the apartment complex on Johnson Farm Lane, as well as Christiana Care, about vehicles stopping in the middle of the intersection going northbound 202. We did take a look at that, and that is a frequent issue with traffic backing up there. So what we're going to do is request PennDOT modify the signal plan so we can go in and stripe essentially a do not block the box scenario. It'll be a white stripe. It'll say do not block the box. There'll be some signage. We'll then update the state police who will be able to enforce that.
Okay, do I have a motion to authorize Nate Finoni to go ahead with that work?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is the bid awards. Mr. Gillespie, you're going to handle 4A and 4B, please.
Yes, thank you. So regarding pickleball, bids were received on July 29th. Two bidders had presented bids. Our engineer looked at the breakdown of the bids, and the lowest qualified bidder is Gessler Construction of Media. He has reviewed their references, and he's worked with the low bidder in the past. And after reviewing the bids, we tried to tone it down a little bit by eliminating a few items to the tune of $82,000. So when you take the $82,000 off the low bid, you get a base bid price of $577,938. What that's going to buy will be 6 outdoor pickleball courts. And our pickleball group that's been playing in the BYC gym has been looking very forward to getting an outdoor facility, and we're trying to accommodate the needs. There's many, many people today that are playing pickleball. Great sport, tried it myself, and we want to move forward with this project. So I will make a recommendation that we award the contract to Gessler Construction, the amount of $577,938. Form of the motion.
We have a second.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, next is the
And we
Smith Bridge Park enhancements and dog park relocation.
Yes, this is another pet project, dog park, right? Okay. So the bids came in on August the 1st, and we had 5 bidders. Lowest qualified bidder is Lechmonic of Westchester. The engineer has reviewed the references and worked with the low bidder in the past. And there's some reductions there as well, to the tune of $35,464, which means the overall price for this contract will be $458,940. $807.91. That will be for relocation of the dog park and also for the volleyball courts and some temporary work to our walking trail over at the Smithbridge Park facility. That's in the form of a motion that we awarded to Lechmonic in the amount of $458,807.91.
Okay, so Nate, we are taking the dog park from 40 Bethel Road, which has proved to be somewhat problematic from a control standpoint, moving it to Smithbridge Road, correct?
That's correct.
And we are putting a small parking area in there for that, right?
Correct. We'll put an additional parking lot just to kind of have some flexibility because that parking lot's already kind of reaching max capacity.
And then we have to relocate the trail, a portion of it, in order to go around where the pickleball courts will be. And then we've also had requests from Park and Rec regarding the reconstruction of the volleyball courts.
Correct. So
Go
where the
ahead.
where the volleyball courts are currently, we're going to rotate the orientation to be correct so they can play. Right now, it's not the correct orientation, and we're going to install an additional one, so there'll be 3 total sand volleyball courts there at the same location they're currently at. We're also going to install some amenities, connect some water fountains, things of that nature to that facility. The dog park, just to orient everybody, will be, if you're looking at the park from Smithbridge Road, it'll be all the way on the left-hand side. If you can see, there's a cell tower on that left-hand side. It'll be essentially right in front of that. There'll be a parking lot, and just to the right will be the dog park. The dog park will be a fenced-in area for 2 different areas, small dogs and large dogs. Right now, we are just doing that as a grass dog park. Other alternatives are available. They all have pros and cons, and they all have expenses. So we're going to do it as a grass dog park, see what kind of success, what kind of use we have, and if we have to think about different surface alternatives in the future, that could be something we think about in the future.
Okay, John, you may,
Sorry, and then just timing-wise, these will both be fall construction projects. So I'd like to see, hopefully we'll see ground getting broken on both of these within the next few weeks.
okay. John, that was in the form of a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is, number 5 is to authorize to advertise the ordinance amendment to the traffic and vehicle code, stop sign ordinance, I guess you would say. We talked about it earlier. We have a motion to authorize the advertisement of that ordinance.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second motion.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Amanda, new fund balance policy for adoption. You just want to give us a very brief overview. I think we've had fund balance policies in the past.
Sure.
But with you and Hank here now, you've developed one that you discussed with council at our last caucus meeting, and I think we were happy with it. If you could just tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll make a motion to approve it.
Sure, that is correct. This is a basic amendment overhaul to the existing fund balance policy. Hank and I have been here, I know I keep saying I'm coming on almost 2 years in October, but 1.5 years when we came in here, we had lots of conversations about fund balance and policies and moving forward. These are best practices that could put in place that help to guide everyone very clearly on their roles and what's the expectation. So I think for purposes of discussion or to announce tonight, so what's mainly important is that we give clear definitions surrounding a committed, assigned, non-spendable, and restricted funds. Additionally, we have built into the plan where the fund balance isn't to get less than 20% of the expenditures in that budgeted year. So that's to assure that the township doesn't put itself ever in a situation where we don't have money coming into the first part of the year, to make sure we don't have to take loans or borrow from ourselves, which is the point of a fund balance policy, which is to make sure you have money in the accounts. And then on the converse side of that, we have a 30% maximum reach, so at the end of the year. So for example, this past year, we had a lot of money come in with transfer tax and real estate transfer tax monies that came in at the end of the year. And what we would do is provide a recommendation for council on moving those monies into other areas that are needed. So that's really the high level of it. It's an administrative policy that has clear parameters for the township treasurer and township manager and our roles to make sure council is made fully aware of all these things.
Okay, so we would need a motion to adopt the Concord Township Fund Balance Policy. I'm looking at the paperwork it's written on. It says Fund Balance Policy 2009. It's 3 pages. We have a motion to approve that fund balance policy.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Last on the agenda, there are no escrow releases. We are accepting as complete for filing the following application. We need to do a lot line adjustment at 527 Featherbed Lane. That is the Hall property in order to get us to settlement. So we are accepting that plan tonight. Mr. Julesen has been gracious enough to put it on the schedule for this month's meeting so that we will be ready when we do go to settlement to have that lot line adjustment made so that when we go to the courthouse to record it, be actually clear on the paper what the halls are going to maintain ownership of and what we will have ownership of. So do we have a motion to accept as complete for filing that plan?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. John Crossan, you want to add something regarding that project and the settlement date?
Yeah, I have two points under other council members. The matters. The first one is regarding the Hall acquisition, which we announced at last month's meeting. We anticipated the acquisition and settlement to be complete by this point. However, Mrs. Hall, Clarice Hall, her health deteriorated significantly, and she did pass away on Sunday. And so that delayed our closing to a date to be determined until her estate is probated. And so I would move that our council, that our solicitor and township manager be authorized to amend our agreement of sale to change the dating as needed to facilitate that when appropriate.
So would we be giving them permission to revise the settlement date depending on the circumstances with the Hall family, with the passing of Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
And our condolences to the family. I think I met her once. She was a fine lady. So we have a motion. Do we have a second to allow the solicitor to amend those dates as required?
Second motion.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, under other council matters, Mr. Gillespie, you want to talk about the plastic bag?
Yes, earlier in the meeting, Mr. Donahue mentioned about that he had prepared a proposed ordinance. I've been following this topic for quite a while and wanted to pass some legislation, but the state of Pennsylvania came down and said they put a moratorium and said you can't do it for about another year. So I know that a close municipality in the Concord Township that just passed legislation in spite of what the state of Pennsylvania did. And I would like to do the same thing here in Concord. When you see the damage that these plastic bags and straws are doing to the wildlife out in our oceans and also in our landfills, it just makes you sick. We need to be proactive and pass this legislation. Excuse me. What this would be is we would advertise for a hearing, and then if everything worked out right, we would pass it, and the ordinance wouldn't go into effect until July of 2020. But it would give merchants and restaurants almost a year's notice that this is coming, and they're going to have to not be able to use single-stream plastic bags and plastic straws. So that's where we are. So I'd like...
Question from the audience? real quick?
Yeah, we can take some questions from the audience if you want.
Okay. It says I'm modeling it after the Delaware law that's going into effect January 1st. I think if anyone saw this Sunday's Inquirer, I don't know if it was in the real estate section or in the second section, Westchester Borough just enacted a very similar ordinance, and they also used that July 2020 date because I think Governor, if I'm not mistaken, there's a moratorium in Pennsylvania. Delaware was Delaware, but Pennsylvania, this July 2nd, 2020 is the date. So what Westchester just did is enacted a very similar ordinance, and it goes into effect the day after the moratorium in Pennsylvania comes off the books. As John says, it gives businesses almost a year to get their act together to figure out what they're going to do.
So, Mr. Donahue, what would be the next thing to do? Will we advertise for a hearing for this?
If the board so approves, council so approves, then advertise for a hearing, and then we would have a hearing on this particular ordinance.
Okay.
So we would need an
Then I'll make a motion that we
authorize the
advertise.
advertisement. So we have a motion to authorize the advertisement of the plastic bag and straw ordinance, for lack of a better word. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay? John, you have one more thing?
One of the things as we have had a lot of discussion tonight around traffic, and also we think about how do we coordinate with our neighboring municipalities. Our neighboring municipalities include not only in Pennsylvania, but also in Delaware. And recently, Dominic, Amanda, Nate, and I met with representatives from the Newcastle County Planning Division, as well as WMAPCO, which is their Delaware's regional planning division, to discuss their projects and master plan along Route 202 and projects that we have in works along 202, so that we could better coordinate, because obviously we know a lot of people travel through both of those areas. And one thing that came out of that we're looking to do is to align our stoplights signalization from the last stoplight in Delaware and the first stoplight in Pennsylvania, so that we're more synced up. So just wanted to share that update with regard to how we're working closely with our neighbors.
Seeing no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Thank you for coming out this evening.